So I was going to talk about the government shutdown a little bit more this morning, but the more I look at it, it's going to go on for a while because old Chucky Schumer, he's just got to keep pretending to be a big man and keep telling his lies. So we'll probably be getting into that a little more this week, and I'll explain in much greater detail how just the stack of lies that's going around with that. But then I saw that Joe Rogan was trending this morning, and I couldn't help but take advantage of the algorithmic hit. So Joe was on, had a guest on, and they were talking about the digital ID scam that's about to hit Europe. And this is worth paying attention to because they'll be wanting to do something like that here. And as I've pointed out in the past, in the 90s, while Clinton was the president and Hillary was taking the reins of the whole healthcare fight, part of that plan included subdermal RFID chips implanted in every U.S. baby born in a hospital. And it's one of those things that it's hard to find. It's hard to find the information. That shit got memory holed so hard, Orwell couldn't dig it up with a 1986, right? A sequel to the original book. But let's listen to the Rogan clip real quick about this, and then I've got a clip from RFK Jr. and Hillary Clinton on a similar topic.
Ultimately, what you're seeing in other countries is moving to digital IDs. This is just implemented in Europe and in the UK. Yep. You're seeing it in a lot of places where you're going to have to need that to work and vote and travel. And it'll be even more of a constriction on your ability to express yourself, particularly when you think about the UK, which has had more than 12,000 arrests for very mild social media posts.
Isn't that crazy? I mean, I can't believe that. I've been watching this stuff play out.
You're seeing a complete, total attack on one of the most fundamental principles of the Western world, which is your ability to express yourself and your ability to call out that you think that the policies that are being implemented in your country are destructive.
So they just made a pretty substantial cognitive leap. At least it seems like they did. But let me help you out with it a little bit. So they're talking about the digital ID. No. They're talking about the digital ID thing. That's hitting the streets in Europe, and then suddenly jumped to 12,000 arrests over innocuous social media posts. Again, in Great Britain and the UK, right? You can't. There is no free speech left outside of the US. I mean, absolutely, Mario and I would be, and Cameron and any of the boys that do the show, we would be in jail. We would absolutely be in jail if we lived anywhere other than the United States for any number of things that we've said on the air. Hell, the show we did Saturday talking about the correlation between rights and responsibilities, which honestly, I wish all you guys had gotten a chance to watch that before you watch this morning's show as we discuss how this works. Patrick says the UK government dismissed a petition against the digital IDs that had 2.7 million signatures. That would be another dismissal of your rights, right to petition the government for redress of grievances. But here's where that really matters. The implementation of the digital ID is going to be an integral part of any plan to implement a Chinese Communist Party style social credit score system anywhere in the world. Right? So what does that mean? How does a social credit score work? Well, let's say you're in your early 20s. You just graduated college. You got your bachelor's degree, your master's degree even. Right? You got your degree. But one ill-timed tweet when you were 16 that said, I don't know, men and women are not the same thing, or something equally as obvious unobjectable and innocuous, and your social credit score just got ticked down. What if we find that social credit score, because it is absolutely the product of communism, of social Marxism, is based, I don't know, nearly entirely on the progressive stack. All of a sudden, it's not just a question of whatever you tweeted when you were a teenager. It's, Dad, that's a great question. He asks, how different is a cell phone from a digital ID? That's a great question, and I'm going to address that in a little more detail here in just a second. But imagine the social credit score. Yeah, it's going to be a tabulation. It's going to include your actual credit score, your TransUnion, and all those. That'll be a part of it. Your social media activity, who you support, what your political positions are, right? Your level of political correctness, right? And your demographics will have an effect, right? The social credit score will be a hard number that can be used for anything from determining what kind of credit is extended to you, right? You're trying to buy a car, buy a house, right? Open a business, extend a business, hire employees, etc. It'll affect your insurance rates. Think about that for a minute. It will affect your trying to get a job, right? It'll affect, so for younger people, it will have a dramatic effect on whether or not they're able to get that first entry level job that allows them to get started. Let me get started pushing the cart in the mailroom so I can learn the ins and outs and climb the ladder and get into that C-suite and make some real money and make something of yourself. And a big part of how that social credit score is going to be tabulated will be related to the progressive stack, because those are the people that are pushing for the social credit score. So what is the progressive stack? We've talked about it in the past, but just a quick primer. Basically, your score goes up based on your victim points, right? So you'll have a baseline. Basically, the 0 is black, brown, person of color, etc. If you're just plain old not white, you're at 0. And then if you can start stacking up on top of that some sort of disability, some sort of sexual perversion or deviance, transgenderism, involvement in some sort of deviance rights movement, etc., right? Then you'll get points on top of that 0. And then once white -1, Christian -1, male -1, heterosexual -1, right? Your mere identity will be a factor in the social credit score. That's why they're attaching it to an ID, a digital ID card. Now, Dad asked the question, how different is a cell phone from digital ID? Here's the difference. Difference, yes. Here's the difference. With your cell phone, I've talked about this many times before. You've got basically your big brother in your pocket, right? George Orwell painted us this dystopian tapestry of a world completely controlled by screens. Every room you go in, there's a screen on the wall that's constantly playing Big Brother's propaganda, and it's got a camera in it that's constantly watching you. Total global panopticon, right? So everything you do is observed by the people who control you, and you're never without messaging trying to program you, trying to control you. And Orwell, of course, painted a picture of a sort of totalitarian government that forced that on the population. Well, we what really happened is we all got in line and we just bought one. And, hey, fair play. It's a great tool. They're useful. And frankly, I've got several contracts that I do, which absolutely require not just a cell phone so that I can make phone calls and talk to people. Right in the early 2000s, when I was doing real estate law, I had a cell phone, a pager, and a portable fax machine. Right. And, just for basic communication. But now, I've got a digital calendar that I have to update so that my various assistants across different contracts know when they're allowed to schedule me for work, and when they're even allowed to ask me if I'm interested in taking a contract. I got to run all that through there, and then several of the contracts I run are using AI and all kind of digital measuring tools that are part of that cell phone. Sometimes I do floor plans for construction contractors where I'm literally just walking around a house, holding the cell phone in front of me, letting the cameras take pictures and video while the LiDAR is measuring distances from me to the corners, and the GPS is tracking the route that I'm walking around a house to build a floor plan. Some of the contracts I do involve hooking that phone up to a drone, flying it over a house, and measuring the roof for solar panel installations. And hell, even when I'm just doing real estate marketing material, I use my cell phone as a remote control for the virtual reality camera to build complex virtual reality walking tours of high-end properties. That it's not just a communications device anymore. It is a comprehensive tool. Well, the digital ID will be associated with your phone number, your cell phone. It'll be something that you access through your phone. That's the plan as it sits. So that's a bit of a walk back from Hillary Clinton's original plan that she tried to push forward in Hillary Care. The Hillary Care tried to create what they called a health security card, which was proposed to start off as basically it looked like a credit card with a mag stripe on it, and you'd have a pen. This is before smart cards were really a thing, but that was intended, according to the legislation, to build on the idea of the RFID implants, which, for which they essentially commissioned the V-chip producers, who eventually went on to make the RFID tags that we use in pets, because that money had to go somewhere. They spent the money on the research, and then the bill didn't go through. We ended up not having RFIDs implanted in every child born in a U.S. hospital, which was outright stated to be the plan. We kind of dodged a bullet on that one, or maybe more correctly, we just kind of kicked a can down the road. And I think they're getting wise to it, that we will voluntarily buy a shiny toy that beeps and boops, right, before we go in and let somebody inject a grain of rice under our skin for the same effect. Now, what Rogan's talking about here is that social credit score. Hey, we don't need to lock you up for saying the wrong thing. We can just ding your social credit score, and before you know it, your social credit score drops too low, and all of a sudden, you're out of a job, or your mortgage interest rate got increased, or any number of things. Basically, they like to talk about fascism. Imagine if the government has not direct control, but is just issuing direct orders to private businesses about hiring decisions, about credit extension decisions, things that have never been the purview of the American government under our Constitution.
People have always been able to do that. These people are not calling for violence.
Yep.
They're being arrested for wild things. People are being arrested for liking posts.
Yep.
They're being some people were investigated for viewing posts. 12,000 people arrested by the police in the UK, the same place that just implemented digital ID. I mean, this is an Orwell nightmare coming to life right in front of our face, and no one's flinching. If you look at what's going on, like in the UK, what they're learning over there is that they are in a tyrannical government, and it's slowly but surely. It's got its back, it's got the hooks in, and it's putting the rear naked choke in. It's got them locked up, and they've got to do something about it.
Why do you think that's happening?
Why? Because of what we talked about: power and control and resources, and a very limited amount of people are controlling a huge amount of people. This is all the same thing that happened.
Okay, so at this point, Joe's starting to miss something important, and I want to let's just remind you. This is Hillary Clinton. What's the date on this? This is back, I think, during Trump's re-election.
If the platforms, whether it's Facebook or Twitter X or Instagram or TikTok, whatever they are, if they don't moderate and monitor the content, we lose total control. And it's not just the social and psychological effects, it's real harm. If the platforms, whether it's Facebook or Twitter X or Instagram or TikTok, whatever they are, if they don't moderate and monitor the content, we lose total control.
See, we lose total control. We lose total control, right? And that's the objective. That's what they're looking for, is total control.
They are.
So I want you to pay attention to what he says. So here's RFK Jr. on it. Yeah.
They
pay
are
attention to what he
putting
says
in
about
place
satellites.
all of these technological mechanisms for control we've never seen before.
And guys, I know RFK Jr. It's hard. His voice is hard to listen to, and I apologize for that. But he is an important person right now, and he's in some good shit right now. So we're gonna kind of slog through this.
Or it's been the ambition of every totalitarian state from the beginning of mankind to control every aspect of behavior, of conduct, of thought, and to obliterate dissent. The mechanism.
And he just said to obliterate to control every aspect of thought and obliterate dissent. And what did we just hear Clinton say? We have to make the social media companies comply, or we will lose our total control. Right? It's kind of like back when Mika Brzezinski was talking. Oh well, Donald Trump goes out there and just tells people stuff so that they believe him, and it doesn't even matter if it's true. And that's our job. I'm sorry, what?
Mechanisms are being put in place that will make it so none of us can run and none of us can hide. Within 5 years, we're going to see 415,000 low orbit satellites. Bill Gates says his 65,000 satellites alone will be able to look at every square inch of the planet 24 hours a day.
That right there, that is what we call a total global panopticon. Total global panopticon.
They're putting in 5G to harvest our data and control our behavior. Digital currency that will allow them to punish us from a distance and cut off our food supply.
I'm live, but feel free to interrupt the coffee with battle. Here, hold on a minute. Hold up. Yeah, there you go. Hold up. Wave at the camera. There you go. No, this way. There you go. Say good morning.
Good morning.
Say good morning, Granddad.
Good morning, Granddad.
All right, now go away. Thanks, little battle. Love you. I've got good kids.
You have a series of rights, as flawed as our government is. You can still go out and go to a bar. You can go to a sporting event. You can get on a bus or an airplane and you can travel. You have certain freedoms. You can get educated, etc. The minute they hand you that vaccine passport, every right that you have is transformed into a privilege contingent upon your obedience to arbitrary government dictates.
So I hope you guys get a chance to watch, if you haven't already, the show from Saturday on rights, responsibilities, and the origin of government, right? We talked about the difference between Hobbes, Rousseau, and Locke, right? And what he's describing now is Hobbes's wet dream. An absolute totalitarian government that has complete and utter control over your every daily activity, right? Hobbes told us that man in a state of nature lives a life that is brutish, violent, and short, right? Rousseau, of course, said that men are generally good and the quote is, "Man is born free, but everywhere in chains." Right? His idea was that government is just a burden on the people. It's just chains on the people. I tend to see government as more of a necessary evil. I'm a little more skeptical of government than Locke, perhaps, but Locke showed us this vision of men having ownership over property through mixing their labor with natural resources and making the property their own by value of their integration with it, right? Working the land makes it your land, and government as an organized cooperation between many parties of men, so that their contracts and commerce could be guaranteed by their enduring mixed faith. Right? I don't mean mixed faiths like, some of them are Christian, some are Muslim. That's a different matter. I mean, by mixing their faith together in one another, they come up with this cooperation, this cooperative system. But that cooperation is extraordinarily powerful. And it's the what do they call? Oh, what's it called? The Matthew principle. From those who have nothing, more will be taken. To those who have everything, more will be given. Right? That's not just. It's the Pareto principle, right? It's something like 20% of the product, or 80% of the productive work is done by 20% of the producing agents. So you'll see when you have that massive government cooperation between people, the result is, God, anybody that's been to a high school or a college and been put on a group project, somebody does all the reading, somebody else might buy the poster board, and then 3 or 4 other people write their names on the finished product so that everybody gets the same A grade. And that is the world at large. Once you start cooperating, you can achieve great things, right? My dad told me once that the welfare state was worth having basically because there's a bunch of useless people out there who, frankly, it's worth it to pay them to get the hell out of the way. And I don't entirely disagree with that. I believe it or not, I take a more biblical view on that. What does the Bible tell us about that? If you don't work, you don't eat. Right? I'm a big fan of just letting the useless dross starve and burn off. But the fact is that there are entities out there that are worse than the useless eaters, than the worthless dross that we would prefer to see starve away. And that is those people who will leverage access to the cooperation, and rather than contribute to it, they'll kind of wheedle their way up through the stack to get to the top where they can take control without actually being contributors. They're not unlike the cuttlefish that biologists call the sneaky fucker, right? They dress up like they're useful and important, right? Basically politicians generally. They dress up like they're useful and important, and that way they can sneak past. They can sneak in to somewhere that they shouldn't be because they don't deserve to be there, and take advantage of the opportunity that's afforded to them through the labor of other men. Every bit of this social credit score, digital ID, digital currencies, like, I'm good with cryptocurrency being a thing. As soon as a federal government, a federal level entity, makes a cryptocurrency its official currency, right? Imagine the US dollar gets replaced with a US crypto coin. Y'all, Sergeant Major mentioned a minute ago, it wasn't that long ago that the Obama administration, and I think they did it again a little bit under the Biden administration, but it was real big under the Obama administration. They just straight up arbitrarily debanked firearms dealers. Right? Pawn shops, gun stores, sporting goods stores. They would just come in and debank them. And when I say they would debank them, what I mean is the Obama administration put in place policies where compliance was onerous and difficult. And so many banks chose, rather than comply with the new regulations regarding just doing business with firearms dealers, they decided, you know what, we're just not going to do business with those firearms dealers anymore. And so, all of a sudden, you got a little pawn shop and you buy and sell some guns in your pawn shop. Hey, guess what? Your money's gone. Your money just ceases to exist. Just debanked. Freeze the accounts. Take it away. Right? I mean, we saw Canada do that to truck drivers during the trucker strike 3 years ago. Just, you know what? Starve them. Okay. That's a valid strategy. It's effective. In fact, there's a name for it. It's called the Holodomor. If you're not familiar with the Holodomor, go look that one up. You thought the Holocaust... Shit. Hitler said Holocaust. Russia said, hold my vodka. The Holodomor. Well, that's what these digital IDs will be. Digital ID plus cryptocurrency at the federal level equals ideological Holodomor committed by your government. And it'll be done in a state of absolute panopticon. Okay, guys, I'm going to have to put a pen in it there before I get too black-pilled this morning. Get your white pills. I'll try and come up with something more hopeful for tomorrow. Y'all be safe out there. We love you, and we will see you tomorrow.